So we should be live. And, yeah, if you're watching this as an archive, just skip on a few minutes because the show doesn't actually start for another 2.5 minutes. I just do this so that I can patch in my guests and stuff like that at the top of the hour, or just before. So, and yeah, there you go. I'll see you in a couple of minutes. Enjoy the show. And let's have a good one. One, two, da di da da. Oh, oh, seems to be working. Hello. Oh, look at that. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. We'll be right with you. Hold on. Daily Brexit live at 5 Tuesdays and Thursdays. Daily Brexit coming up shortly. Live on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 p.m. Live at 5 Tuesdays and Thursdays. Daily Brexit, yes, coming up soon. Daily Brexit. One, two, da di da da. Oh, oh, seems to be working. Hello. Oh, look at that. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. We'll be right with you. Hold on. Daily Brexit live at 5 Tuesdays and Thursdays. Daily Brexit coming up shortly. Live on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 p.m. Live at 5 Tuesdays and Thursdays. Daily Brexit, yes, coming up soon. Daily Brexit. One, two, da di da da. Oh, oh, seems to be working. Hello. Oh, look at that. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. We'll be right with you. Hold on. Daily Brexit live at 5 Tuesdays and Thursdays. Daily Brexit coming up shortly. Live on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 p.m. Live at 5 Tuesdays and Thursdays. Daily Brexit, yes, coming up soon. Daily Brexit. One, two, da di da da. Oh, oh, seems. Hey folks. And welcome to the Daily Brexit. Holding democracy to account, fighting for self-determination and exposing plutocracy. I'm Olly Connelly. Thanks for turning up. And today's show, BREXPAT Chat. 2 Brits, both migrants to Spain, one a Remainer, the other for Brexit. That's me. Expat Peter Heskett braves his argument against me. And you, I suspect. Yeah, and you're welcome, please. Questions, suggestions, corrections, addendums. We've got live comments on the show on the Facebook post. Or just call in. Hey, find me on Skype, Olly Connelly, one word, just call. I was traveling yesterday. I've had a few days off, yeah, and I feel like I'm rusty. But hey, do me a favor, yeah, like the show post, share it galore, spread the word, and hey, thank you for your support. I shall wear it always. It's been another quiet week in Brexit land. I imagine we're going to be looking at that too. discussing. Yay! What questions have you got in the comments? Yeah. We're going to be discussing all that. Okay. Oh, blimey. Without further ado, let's get the show on the road. Hey, Peter Heskett, are you there, sir?
Yeah. Good evening, Olly.
Hey, Peter. How are you? Now, I got to say, before we begin, Peter Heskett is an old friend of mine, and he's also a very brave man because, well, he's a Remainer, and he's come on a Brexiteer show. And so, look, let's just give him a little bit of a slack. Yeah, a bit of slack in the comments. Peter, you are a brave man. Hey, thanks for coming on my show, mate. You might get it a bit tough today, here and there. I got to tell you. Yeah.
Well, we'll see.
What's going on with you? I mean, tell me, you are in Valencia, like me, in Spain. So, what is your tale? Why are you here as opposed to in the UK without, telling us all about your family and giving away your personal stuff too much? But what is your position in here? What is it that qualifies you to want to be talking about this from your side of things?
Right, okay, well, no, been here 16 years. I run my business, my wife runs her business, and so I wouldn't say we've totally integrated with the Spanish, but we certainly live alongside and work away and enjoy being European. And enjoy the freedom it gives us to move around. And I have to say that I have just this year sat the exams. There's 2 exams to become Spanish, and I'm waiting the results on the second one. And so, if Brexit happens, I will have my umbrella. I'll have a Spanish nationality. But the thing about umbrellas is, with any luck, you won't need them. And so, anyway, that's where I'm coming from, or going to.
So you actually feel passionately enough, or it's essential enough to you for your situation that you're changing your nationality to become Spanish? Or can you have dual nationality, or?
Well, in Britain or England, UK, there is no mechanism for announcing your citizenship. So if you're British, you're British, as far as the British are concerned. Now, Spain does not have dual nationality, so that when I become Spanish, as far as Spanish is concerned, I'll be Spanish. And they'll want my British passport, so I will probably declare that lost, get another British one or something. Yeah, I will work my way around it. Or else,
so far as the Brits are concerned, you retain your citizenship.
As far as Brits are concerned, you're British.
Irrespective.
As for passports, you have to work way around it.
Okay.
But in terms of my situation here, I'm coming up to retirement, and I've been paying the Spanish system for a long time. So if I do a couple more years, I'll get a Spanish pension. And I do not want any complications.
Fair enough. Because that is one side, obviously, to this. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to get you on and to do this show. Because there are concerns, of course there are, for, we call them expats, but, migrants. I mean, we're migrants too when we leave the UK and we go somewhere else. And, I mean, there are concerns. And so I'm glad to hear them, to hear it from your point of view.
Well, that's my personal point.
Go on. Yeah. Well, do you personally, do you fear, for example, for the money that you've put into your pension? Because I can understand why that is something that people would be concerned about.
That hasn't really become an issue for me because I'm not relying on my pension, although I'm getting a basic English one now. because I'm 65, but I will not, I don't live off that. It's about 500 euros a month or 500 something. And so...
that's a British pension.
That's a British pension. It used to be 700 euros. Now it costs 500 euros. So I'm very lucky. I've got work here. I've got my health. I can keep going. But I know an awful lot of people who are struggling enormously with this depreciation of the sterling. And whatever happens, it's a moot point whether the pound will ever recover.
Yes.
Certainly, and if something happened, like a miracle happened, and we had a second referendum, and Brexit suddenly was not wanted, then there'd be a real problem negotiating your way back in, and whether we'd ever get back in without, these are all big. They are the big ifs. So what could happen? Because we all know, frankly, I hate to say this, Olly, we all know what's going to happen if Brexit happens. We're going to be well buggered. Now, it's sad you haven't got anyone else on the show, but my questions for any Brexiteer
I suspect we will have other people on the show, actually, Peter. But carry on.
For anyone listening or who supports Brexit, do you have a mortgage on a property in England? Do you have a job? Do you have to get a certain amount to pay that mortgage every month? Now, if you're of working age and a property owner, got a big mortgage and everything, then this Brexit is really worrying. It's got to be worrying.
Go on, sorry, but surely there are lots of uncertainties either way. Because come on, I mean, the euro is not looking so hot.
No, you're absolutely right. That this is a great argument of my mates who are Brexiteers, and that is that it's all going to go fast, so let's get out before it goes down. Now, it may well go down, but it's going to take years till that happens, and in the meantime, the UK is going to suffer enormously because of all the trade problems and everything. And in fact, it could well be the card which is taken out of the House of Cards pulls the whole thing down. And,
I hear your concern, but again, I mean, for example, there was a report just over the weekend, I think, that said that we can expect to gain something in the region of 175 billion pounds per year as a result of leaving the EU. I mean, all I'm saying is that there are contradictory views, and it's difficult to say. No?
Look at the source of that.
Yeah.
I mean, who published that figure?
Well, I think that was
who
a government
invented that figure.
To be honest with you, I don't remember exactly, but because I've kind of been out of the loop for the last few days, I have actually got a whole bunch of British newspapers with me here to go through and stuff like that. But I am a little bit out of the. I don't know who put together that report, but I do recall that it did look pretty legit to me. But again, having said that, we've had all sorts of reports on both sides of the argument that look legit, and it's so hard to know, as with polls and all sorts of things. It has to be said in fairness. But my point is that there are contradictory views, and given that there has been in my opinion, a democratic, well, I mean, I would have thought clearly a democratic mandate for Brexit, should we not all of us be running with the side that says, look, hopefully it is going to be okay, but we've got to go with democracy and make the most of it at worst. And hopefully, you know what, it could be better. All I'm asking is, why be, if you like, more partisan towards the negative side of what could happen with Brexit as opposed to the positive side of what could happen? Out of interest, Peter.
Well, I just can't see the positive. I just can't see it. As the Australian said, well, what are you going to sell us? Tins of shortbread with the House of Parliament painted on it. I mean, it's oh god.
I bought some shortbread home actually from UK when I came back. £1 a packet from M&S, very good value. Yeah, sorry, carry on.
So
much better than in the airport. In the airport, it was £6. £6 each. Sorry, carry on, Peter. Yeah.
The positives are very much in the air, whereas the negatives are very clear. The negatives, I would put it to you, are one, the manufacturing industry in England. Now, I'm really not an expert in manufacturing, but for example, the car
industry. It has
industry,
been run down. We know that.
The car industry there are 10 cities in England which depend on the car industry. Swindon, Sunderland, and a few more.
Right.
And the fact is...
So where are they going?
Honda, Nissan, and the rest will bugger off. They will take their manufacture elsewhere, just as Fiat took their manufacture in Palermo and put it in Czech Republic. It's easy to move it out. And if they haven't got the market, if they can't sell their cars, they're going to have to.
Yeah, but why would they not have the market? Why would they move?
We're not going to be a part of the single market.
Why do we need to be? Well, okay. Well, fair enough. Why do we need to be?
Well, the whole point is, if you're at Honda and you've got a factory in Europe, you want to be able to sell into Europe, and that just isn't going to be possible out of a factory in Swindon. It won't happen. They will move. And if you look at the history, manufacturers moved before now for lesser reasons. Now they've got a bloody good reason. And the latest one is the steel industry, Tata, or wherever they've sold it to. I mean, they have a choice where they make their steel.
But they're already moving. I mean, the steel industry is already gone because largely of EU protectionism or swapping different industries around different places. And that's kind of what they've done. And as a result of that, we've lost... One sec, Peter. We've lost fishing, more or less. And we lost steel as well. Ask the guys on the Clyde and in Wales, for example. And there is actually a possibility that we can revitalise. This is my question to you. There is a possibility that we can revitalise our steel industry, Peter, now. And fishing, we're talking about a lot. No,
the fishing is, I don't know where you get your fish from. The Scots sell most of their seafood, their shrimp, their prawns to Spain and to Europe. And so they will be, they will obviously want to stay in Europe.
But not so much fish though, Peter, because it's actually the Spanish fishermen that are catching it around, English and Scottish waters. So the fishing industry would have a chance to catch those fish and to sell them to the market, and that for example is a good thing, at least, no, for Scotland and for the fishing towns around the UK. No,
for the
not so good for Spanish fishing. I gotta agree with you. You look at the fish counter in Consum or wherever, and it's full of bacalao and tiny cod. I mean, where the hell they get these little cod? Because they're not meant to fish them; they're meant to fat them back. I thought. Well, I think actually cod stocks are replenished, Peter. But that's an aside. But carry on. They do have a lot of fish from British waters on the fish counters in the supermarkets in Spain. Sure. Sorry, carry on. But from all over the world, actually, as well. Carry on, Peter. Sorry. But surely it's good.
You.
Surely it's good though for example. I mean, the steel industry actually has a chance to have a resurgence in the UK. No. But one of the reasons that the government wasn't able to prop up the steel industry was because the EU, under the rules that we all abide by in the EU, we're not allowed to. We can't have any sort of protectionist policy for our particular nation state, which is kind of ironic because the EU is one big protectionist trade policy for those nation states that are within the EU. And if you don't believe that, ask the average African farmer what they think of it, because they have to pay a tariff to trade into the EU. And so, anywhere outside, it is protectionist. So in a way, we're just taking away those protectionist powers from, really people that are not British and giving them to the British. And that's something that similarly other nation states could do if they wanted to. And then we can trade amongst ourselves under a setup which is more akin to the thing that Britain voted for example, the EEC, Although that's another story again, because what we actually voted for is, well, not entirely what we thought we voted for, I have to say. And anybody that was watching last week's show, where I had Stephen Long and Graham Moore on, may recall that we were discussing this and how actually Ted Heath, well, and that cabinet of his time knew that they were signing away British sovereignty. They just also knew that it wasn't going to kick in a time scale that the British people would particularly see it happening, because it would be such slow motion. Peter, I know you weren't involved in that show and probably haven't heard it, so I'm not going to.
No, that's right. That's right. I do understand. I do know the story.
Right.
And yeah, we are bamboozled into it, and we are bamboozled out of it, because we were lied to furiously during the referendum, and just as
on both sides, sir.
With truth. Well, on both sides, but on the Remain side, it was all this. This may happen. This they just didn't put. They didn't make it clear. I mean, the probabilities is when something is almost certainly going to happen. I think it's more than may. It's going to happen. Like the City of London is going to lose a third of its business with euro clearing, and that's going to have a massive effect on the prosperity in the southeast. On the country, frankly, because every person who's employed in the city pays a shed load of tax, and there just isn't going to be the tax revenue to pay for the rest of, the benefits and the health system, etc. There just isn't going to be tax revenue.
You say that, but all the indications are that the city will be protected. How much it benefits the British people per se, per capita, is maybe another argument, but let's assume it does, and I agree. Obviously, it brings in some kind of tax revenue. How much? I'm not entirely sure, to be honest with you. But let's setting that aside, the city by and large is saying that they're happy with Brexit. All in all, they can put up with it, and it does sound as though
there's dodgy hedge funders and the peripheral sort of flash commodity brokers, but the real business, these thumpy great banks doing the moving things, they're all booking their planes, their spots in Frankfurt, in Dublin, or they're all making moves.
Well, they're certainly making a lot of noise, because this is the argument, isn't it? You said yourself that we were sold down the river a little bit when we joined the EEC in terms of what it's turned into, but however much that's the case, the EU is a banking dream, isn't it? I mean, it's been wonderful for banks. We've been printing money like it's been going out of fashion. I know this is largely because of this, Great Depression that we've been in since 2008. But it's also largely because of this euro being.
God.
Hold on.
No, I'm going to have to just stop that.
Peter, yeah, stop that. Look, okay.
Unfortunately, it's working time, so things are happening. So
let me bring in one or two comments we've got here. We've actually got comments. In fact, you know what? We've got one or two questions that are interesting. We've got Christopher Michael Baxter's asking, there are no positives of remaining in the EU, or what are they? But you're talking about financial stability, aren't you? And that's the debate we're having. Okay, all right.
It's financial stability, economic stability, and the prosperity of the UK. Now, prosperity, you think of tons of money, loads of money, and going on holidays. Well, that's very nice. That's when you've got abundance. But then when it gets tight, you've got to get the money to pay the bills. And then when suddenly there isn't the money, then you've got poverty. And we've already got a fair amount of poverty in the UK. And
we've got a great deal of poverty in the UK, and Brexit or not. And actually, we're just not addressing that either way, it has to be said, at the moment, it seems to me.
Well, I find it...
As an aside.
Well, the government has been pathetic. It just is.
Well,
yeah,
successive governments have led us to what we've got.
Yeah, it's true. Successive governments. But some are worse than others. And also, when you're in a boom time, it's easy to spend the money, I suppose. But yeah, I can never understand how it is we built up our debt, national debt, the way we have. Because we worry about, or I wouldn't say worry, the Brexiteers' mantra is, well, France got national debt through the roof, Italy ridiculous, etc., etc. Fact is, our national debt is absurd too.
Whose? The Brits or the Spanish?
Ours.
Right, the Brits.
And in the last time I looked at it, well, it's difficult with the figures, but we had a position of it being such, and it was a medium risk because it was more or less covered by income. But the fact is, if you take 5% off our national product, or 10%, God forbid, then suddenly that's going to be a low-risk debt, a high-risk debt, rather, high risk. Because, how the hell are you ever going to pay it? And right now we're going to borrow tons to do Brexit as well. I mean, it's a very high-risk thing, what you're doing. And that's all it is.
You say that, Peter, but the national debt, as I understand it, more or less, it's 1.8 trillion, something like that, which works out, as I understand it, about 38% of GDP. Sorry, more than 90, that. No, 80%.
It's pushing 90 now.
It is pushing 90. You're right. I do apologise.
France was 110. I can't remember. I looked into.
That's right. Spain is over 100% as well. And, but we actually, for example, over the last couple of months, I just read a story in the last couple of days that our national debt has actually reduced slightly in the last couple of months. Not by a massive amount, but the fact that it's reduced as opposed to have gone up, which is what everybody was speculating it would do. So we actually are looking, considering we've chosen Brexit, we're looking relatively strong, no? Compared to, say, Spain, for example, where national debt is over 100% of GDP and, at 1.2 trillion or what have you. And there it really is a concern for the Spanish folks, relatively speaking, I'm talking about. Is there really any evidence to say that we are worse off with Brexit so far?
Well, we haven't had Brexit. We talked about it. It's when we come out of the single market, then we'll see the effects. When the City of London cuts back, when the manufacturers find other places to manufacture, we're suddenly going to be looking very sad. I say I live in Spain. I didn't have a mortgage in England. I'm just like an observer, but it's, I have nephews, nieces, I have family, I have clients who have properties here, live in England, and have to put up with it all. And it's not easy. It's not easy now. God knows where it's going to be in a few years' time. Hey.
And yet, you say that, but also we do know that markets pre-adjust. So when they're expecting an event to come up, they kind of take a probability of what the event's going to be, what the result's going to be, and markets tend to calculate themselves, to pre-calculate themselves, and then adjust after the event if need be as well. The kind of pre-adjustment that we're seeing is actually quite positive all in all. I hear what you say about the change in the pound and how that, for example, is affecting expats and folks going on a holiday and stuff like that. But then in terms of there being this absolute real problem, a much wider problem for Britain as a whole, we're not really seeing that, are we?
Well, not yet.
You think you disagree with me? You think it's something that we will only see after we have Brexit? It's a bit of an imponderable, though, isn't it, Peter? Either way,
well, you can't it's going to take time for the manufacturers to go and find somewhere else to manufacture. It'll take time for the banks to move the business abroad, but the wheels are in motion now, and it's now very, it's got to the point, it's a moot point whether we can turn it back, turn it around. Whether you want to turn it around, you don't want to turn it around, but I don't know. I spent time in Belgium this year because I've got family there and talked to people there, and it's, just so much misunderstanding of what the Europe's about. For example, there's a lot of people say, well, what about the audits? All this overspending, and I'm sure there is overspending like this everywhere. And yes, the two parliaments ridiculous, but I found myself having lunch with two guys who work for the Atomic Energy Inspectorate, one of whom was my brother-in-law, and we talked about things, and I asked them, well, what about audit? I understand.
Yes.
Do they do any audits? Does anyone produce anything? And to which they tweet, fucking hell, they don't talk about audit. They talk about
no swearing. Go on, carry on.
They talk about inspectorates. And so they have their atomic inspectorate, and the point was made that when we leave, we got to set up our own department or section, do what is currently done by Brussels, which is a major expense and is very technical, and we haven't got the wherewithal to do it. So we'll effectively have, our atomic power plants will be subject to the same sort of inspections as Chernobyl had. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? Anything, you're losing that control. But anyway, the point I wanted to make was that just like they have inspectorates for atomic energy, they have inspectorates in the finance world. And after that, I went online just to do Google EU financial statements. And in fact, there's tons of stuff printed. And so there is an awful lot of information. There's no secrets about what's going on. And they are...
Hey, whoa. Hold on. I want to see where you've seen these. Because I haven't seen anything with a signature. I've seen nothing that is signed off by somebody or a company that can be sued. I've seen nothing that stands up in court.
Well, can you show me the financial statements for the UK, which have been signed off by anyone? Of course you can't. These are government things, and they're all sort of hidden away, and we haven't a clue. We know something about budgets because the Chancellor's check comes out and says, this is what we're going to do. What they've actually done, we don't know a sausage. The only thing we can see is national debt creeping upwards all the time. And
well, okay, I would say
more information on the EU financial statements than we have on the UK, that's for sure.
Let me say, though, in fairness, I'm not saying you're entirely wrong. To be honest, I'm not sure. And if anybody can put us right in the comments, please do. I'd really like to hear on that point. Do we sign off accounts properly in the UK? But my riposte to that, Peter, would be, but that's the sort of thing we want to sort out, but it's a lot harder to sort things out when they're further away. At least in the UK, if we bring power back to the UK, it's a lot easier to then sort out our own house than it is to sort out a house where you have to negotiate with another 27 member states or whatever. I mean, that at least makes sense now. I mean, what I'm saying is one thing at a time, one step up the ladder towards some, better democracy at a time. But I do hear what you say, but I'm not sure that two wrongs make a right here. And let me just make another couple of points as well, for balance, in fairness. I don't see why we can't team up with the EU, with, for example, the nuclear agency that you're talking about, and other projects. I don't see why we wouldn't still help each other with regards terrorism, for example. Well, it would help if they closed Schengen, actually, for a start, it seems to me. And where have we been hearing the questions about that during, off the back of these latest attacks in Spain and what have you. And we heard that the guy had rushed. I'm going off on an aside, a rant. I will come back to where we were. The guy, we were told, had rushed over the border to France from Barcelona. Turns out that he was in Spain. But the fact is that he could have done that. We know that the guys were all holed up in some hotel, you know, and doing a bit of shopping in Paris a few days before the attacks. They can travel so easily because of Schengen, because of the inadequacies in security of the EU, frankly. Peter, I'm going to ask you to comment on this. But the other point I was going to say, just as an aside also, people do conflate the EU and Europe. They're not the same thing. And I've had a few folks that have said this in the comments as well. They're not the same, because Europe is a group of nations that are roughly within the same kind of area who have approximately, you know, similar cultures or a breadth of culture, but more or less within the same kind of area. And the EU, on the other hand, is a political project. They're not the same thing. I just wanted to make that point. But Peter, we could team up on projects still. I mean, it's not as though we're not leaving Europe. We're talking about getting out of a political golf club.
Well, it's a very nice argument. You sound a bit like Boris or David Davis, but I really, this is pie in the sky. The fact is, you're either in or you're out of the thing. And as regarding security, right, there will be, I hope, some sort of sharing, but that is, I think it's so much more difficult if you're on the outside. That's all I can say. Now, talking about the latest thing in Barcelona, which has absolutely nothing to do with anything.
Canada's on the outside, and they signed CETA. Well, I mean, we don't want CETA. Well, that's another show. We don't want CETA or TIP, whatever it is. We don't want those things because they're really helping the corporatocracy, you know. But that aside, other nations are trading with Japan. I think is another one. They just signed up, didn't they? Doing a trade deal with the EU. We can too.
With Japan. Yeah,
well, they just did. Well, we can with them.
With everyone. It's just going to take a long time.
They just did with the EU, is my point, Peter. Other nations have, and why shouldn't we?
Because they're deeply pissed off with us, and if they make it too easy for us, then Holland might jump ship, and you know it could get messy. So it's going to be. I don't think you can expect an easy ride. That could happen 10 years' time, but it's not going to happen in the short term. But anyway, to hop back to what you're talking about in Barcelona, there's nothing to do with anything, but I heard on the radio that the imam who was in Ripoll was known to the people in Brussels.
The guy that's supposed to have masterminded these attacks in Spain?
No, not the mastermind. The imam who... what's the word? Sort of recruited all these boys to do his dirty work. Right,
the coordinator. Because that's, as I understand it, what he was.
They're trying to sell him as coordinator, but an imam is like a priest, for Christ's sake.
Yes, that's right.
It turns out he's not a qualified priest, but basically he's a leader and he's led the garden path. Now, how they... Yeah. We don't know. But all we do know is that, bloody hell, this guy was known in Belgium, but the information didn't trickle down. They kicked him out of Belgium, but they didn't tell Spain that they were sending over a very dodgy individual. And so that's, there's a lot to be learned from this.
Peter, okay.
Yeah.
Let's take this from a different angle now. Everything you've said so far, by the way, God bless you, sir, I disagree with. But having said, no, I don't. I understand what you're saying about your pensions and stuff. I understand that individuals have their own personal considerations and probably family, and, you know, maybe kids and other dependents that they have to consider. I understand that. However, in terms of the pragmatic side for Europe as a whole, I disagree with everything you said. But having said that, when Cameron went across to have a chat with Juncker and all the other folks who were negotiating on behalf of the EU, he was on behalf of the UK, to try and put together some kind of a deal that would avert there being the need for Brexit. The EU wasn't, or that's one way of looking at it, the EU wasn't interested. They weren't interested in negotiating at all. And that's where we're at now. I think some of us half hoped that the EU would, if you like, surrender and say, you know what, you've got a point, we're going to reform. We're going to really, really reform. I mean, you know what, I wouldn't have believed it. However, they could have at least said that, instead of which they are intransigent about their mission for closer integration. Macroni is just going around the EU at the moment, around all the capitals of the major countries in Europe, to try and sell a more integrated EU. My question to you is, would you have preferred to have seen the EU say, let's reform? And if so, what kind of reforms would you have wanted to see them consider and put in place?
Good question. To tell you the truth, I don't know enough about the working of the EU to know what's bad and what's good. We know certain things favour some people, certain things favour others, and it's all a bit woolly. All I do know is that when they enlarged the Union, brought in an extra 10 countries from Eastern Europe, suddenly the idea of integrated Europe, as put on the table by Delors and people like that 10 years ago, that was no longer possible, because the people in Hungary or whatever, these economies are so different that it just wasn't going to happen. And it's frankly still like that. Nothing's changed. You've got 27 people. There's no way you're going to get the dictators of Poland and Hungary and these sort of dodgy Eastern countries who have benefited from being part of Europe. No way you're going to be able to bring them under one umbrella.
Poland isn't dodgy.
Poland apparently is moving towards dictatorship, and the only Democrat in Poland, Polish Democrat, is old Donald Tusk, who is the commissioner in Europe.
Yes,
and he would not have be appointed a commissioner if he was up for appointment now, because the new regime don't particularly like him at all.
They had a vote. They had an election, Peter. That's not.
And it was all
tyranny.
rigged. No. Poland's on the edge. On the edge.
Well, I'm not surprised. I think half of Europe's on the edge.
But, no, on the edge of dictatorship. The point is that Europe can't. It can come together in certain respect, but it doesn't need to, and it won't. It's going to be very slow with 27 or 28 countries to bring on board. And while we had a veto, of course, we could stop an awful lot of things by stepping aside. We are just giving the green light to the Federalists. And I would say at this point, now this blast makes me sound very peculiar, but the fact is, 20 years ago, I was a member of the UKIP. I was actually a paid-up member.
Wow.
I did. I went on a rally with a banner saying no to federalism, no to Euro, because at that point there was a genuine possibility to go Euro and federalist, and even then I wasn't keen on that at all.
So what changed?
Things have changed. I'm now in Europe. I wouldn't say I agree with the Euro particularly, although frankly, if we're one-to-one with the Euro, if we could well be the Arab edge of the pound at the end of the day.
Hold on a sec. So you were a member, a paid-up member of UKIP?
The paid-up member for a couple of years, I was, yes.
Why did you change your mind?
Well, at that point, UKIP, no one ever thought they would actually get independent. It was just they made a very good stand against the euro and the whole federalist agenda, and so they deserve to be supported.
Why did you not like the idea of a federalist agenda, and now you do? Why?
No,
I mean, that's a huge change in politics.
No, I don't particularly like the federalist agenda right now, but I can also see that it's no more balmy than what we have in Spain, where we have some of the autonomous regions are more different than others, but the País Vasco, the Catalans, the Andalusians, they're all stuck together in Spain, and it sort of works. Okay, right now we've got Catalonia want to go independent, but
yeah, and apart from them and the Basques, it's fine.
But as a unit, Spain.
It's a microcosm of Europe, actually. But carry on.
And so the point is that Europe can work fine. It does work fine. It works,
but it doesn't. And Spain isn't entirely working fine either. I mean, we've covered the national debt. We could talk about the unemployment stats.
No, in Spain, it's had, like Ireland, it had too much money thrown at it, which wasn't properly used, but nevertheless, a lot of good things were done with that money, and so the infrastructure in Spain is pretty good. And
okay, look, I'm going to bring in
will come out of it just like Ireland's come out of it. They're doing not that bad.
Okay, I'm going to bring in some comments here. We've got a few comments. Poland a dictatorship? Asked Julie Malin. Poland actually listens to its people more than the UK ever does. Steve Russell, hello mate. Christopher Michael Baxter, now he says, sorry, I lived in Hungary before they joined the EU, and I can say it is definitely not dodgy before or after. Now, Mr. Baxter, I happen to know, is half Hungarian, so hey, watch what you say, Peter. Yeah, and he also says, I am sure your speaker is aware, May and all, stay-in players continually make the same statistically damaging error by saying that we, by staying in the EU, do business with the single market, of which there are 500 million people. There are, in fact, roughly 900 million people in Europe, taken from July 2015 projection, which reads, oh blimey, 851,605,800. Does that mean we are, in actual fact, only dealing with about half of Europe? Okay, well, yeah, I'll read one or two more of these points. I presume the majority of people who voted for out were really uninterested in the economics, but were more interested in immigration as an issue for some. But it is not without reason. I hate to say it to you, but if this is you, I hate to say it to you, if this is you, but the wealthier you are, the more removed from the negative effects of cheap labour immigration you are, and the greater the benefits. Private education insulates your children from oversized classes. Private health expedites your cure. Importing cheap labour maximizes your profits by suppressing wages whilst reducing your private expenditure. He goes on to say, housing pressures fatten your rents and accelerate your capital investment returns. Okay, but the bottom line, what we're getting, this contrary message, is that folks don't think you've got your facts right here, Peter, to be honest with you. But then again, you don't think they've got their facts right either.
No, I'm bit short on facts. I just know what I know, and I didn't know that much. But what I would say is let me give you the question from a different angle. How much to you does sovereignty matter? Not a lot. Not a lot, because frankly, the government got is dreadful, and thing is, every problem we've had could have been solved by the government. For example, immigration, the powers have been there to curb it forever. In Belgium, if you go to Belgium and try and set up work, if you haven't got a job after 3 months, send home. The rules are there. If you move to a country to work and you don't get work, you have to go home. And most countries apply this. In England and the UK, that has never been applied because it's too expensive to apply, and we have this
that was a good point
system.
relating to that. That was a good point that was just made in the comments, no, because the truth is that a lot of folks, actually, I think there was just the Office of National Statistics came out with a study. It was in the news today. In fact, let me see if I can find the study, because it really is very, very relevant. Here we go. Population of the UK by country of birth and nationality in 2016, so last year. And according to the ONS, the main points of the usually resident population in the UK, around 1 in 7, 14%, were born abroad, and 1 in 11, 9%, had non-British nationality in 2016. And also, actually, the point I was going to make, I can't see it here, but I understand that the largest chunk of non-Brits, foreigners living in the UK, are Poles, and I think there's about 1 million of them or so that are not British citizens, yeah, so that have come in through the EU. My point to you, Peter, and backing up what that comment said.
Hold on.
Let me just get my question out. My point to you is, these Poles that have come in, for example, I happen to know that they have reduced the wages of tradesmen in the UK significantly by being able to afford far, far lower wages, which has suppressed the entire freelance building trade and associated trades industries. And that's been very, very difficult for people, for a lot of people. So, I mean, that's been extremely negative, no. I mean, we do have to have a check on that, for example. I'm really just trying to get around as many different areas of this argument as we can. But do you not see that there are a lot of people that frankly are really frustrated because they feel that their opportunities are being reduced enormously by the EU. On the other hand, maybe you personally, it would be the other way around. But from the point of you can see the shoe on the other foot, no?
Yeah,
I mean, another thing. Okay, another thing. With this ONS study today, I mean, it says here, 1 in 7 were born abroad. And I mentioned sovereignty to you. Now, when I talk about sovereignty, what that conjures up in my wee brain is that one thing is control, self-determination as much as possible, a less diluted democratic vote at the poll booth. And another thing that comes to mind is culture, and the dilution of culture that we're seeing with so many folks around different parts of Europe. Just do you not feel that there is a demographic engineering going on, Peter, that it's just a shame? Because look, this isn't a racist thing. It's beautiful to see an indigenous population in its land. When you go on holiday, you want to see that, don't you? You travel to learn from new folks and new faces. And whilst I completely applaud organic, migration and cultural involvement, absolutely, as we always have, for it to be done through political purpose, surely there's a concern there, Peter. Do you not feel that? On behalf of all cultures, not just ours.
Well, the fact is, we are immigrants in Spain, and we are diluting the Spanish culture, and we go to the beach in Malvaros, Patagonia, which is your beach. Gosh, it's the best beach in Spain, I tell you. It's wonderful. But that's not the story.
It's a nice beach.
Anyway,
it is.
You get on that beach,
Peter, but it's a Spanish beach.
But it's a Spanish beach, but you also got a fair few blonde, blue-eyed sort of people from Northern Europe. It's that's life.
Yeah,
and
of course, because there's a tourist industry and there are migrants like us here. But I mean, personally, I've said this once or twice on the show. I'll tell you the story too. I went to this wedding and I was at the reception on this table with a bunch of folks around this table, and it turned out the woman opposite me, she said, "Oh, it was just a couple of days after the referendum, yeah, and so things were a little bit sensitive." And I don't know why I was put on this table with these particular people, yeah. But she says, "I'm an EU commissioner," and I looked at her and I said, "You mean you're a technocrat?" And she said, "What?" She said, "Hold on. I took lots of examinations to be able to do what I do." And I said, "Yeah, and you didn't get a single vote." and the conversation kind of pretty much, idled away after that. But she did say to me, she said, "Hold on, you've got a chance to vote in Spain. So what, hold on." I said, "No, I don't. I don't vote in Spain because you know what? I'm a guest here. I appreciate the fact that this is not my country. I love this country, as I love many countries. I particularly love Spain above most countries. But I mean, it's truth. My wife is Spanish, but I am a guest. And the truth is that my culture is British. And God forbid. I mean, it may be that I find myself back in the UK. If something happens with my relationship, yeah. But my culture ultimately is where I came from. I watched that. I'll give you another example. I watched that Indian-Pakistan partition documentary on the BBC. And there was this lady, this British BBC anchor, Asian, Pakistani girl. And she went back to analyze, what partition had meant, sort of, how many years after, 70 years, whatever it is. And she said, "Coming back here, I really feel my roots." And yes, of course she does, because it's it's a huge part of her makeup. God's honest truth to behold, probably the most important part of her cultural heritage. It's not the fact that her family has been based in the UK for the last however many years. It's her ancestral history. And Peter, I mean, people feel that now. And what we're actually seeing is this big mishmash pushed around. We're being used as an enormous pawn to kind of prop up this, political, well, I would call it a control structure. And actually, our loyalties don't necessarily lie where I don't know. I personally don't vote in Spain. I'm sure it's fine to leave Spain, the Spanish people, to look after their own affairs, and that they're best qualified to do that. And you don't agree with this, though. Do you think I'm very old-fashioned here or something?
There are a number of points made. The first one about immigration. Let's get back to that one.
Yeah, I rambled a bit. I admit.
We have no control over who is in the UK. That is the fact of the matter. You may have border controls, but they're all coming through lorries or whatever. And without ID cards, there can be no control. So all this posturing blaming on Europe.
I agree with that. I think we need them.
It's wretched Blair. For we got the OK to the ID card. Instead of just doing an ID card like we're in Spain with the thumbprint and the mugshot, he had to go for
and it says foreigner on the top, by the way.
Shit.
On that card, the Spanish ID card, if you're a foreigner, it says foreigner. That's politically correct.
That doesn't help either. But
it's what it is. It's what it is. That's fine.
It helps us Spain, and certainly it would help us. Because we have absolutely when I say we, I'm like you, I am Brit, I can't help it, I am.
Yeah, you are.
Country, the fact that I'm in Spain because I'm married to a British Argentinian, and we're very happy here.
Right, similar deal to me.
Up in England, came here, bought here, and I can't sell, so we're here, and that's it. But sorry, I've been interrupted by someone coming.
Oh, for goodness sake.
So basically, that's my rant about ID cards. It's the most...
Well, actually, people are agreeing with you on that in the comments. One sensible thought of your guest is, yes, we need an ID card.
Yeah, I mean, will that happen? It's a government thing, and the government has failed. Shut the door. Sorry, my son is wandering around asking me to stop shouting. Well,
Peter's son, please stop shouting and shut the door.
Oh, hang on a second.
For crying out loud. I don't know where he's gone now. I'll tell you.
We're back.
Right, good. Okay, right, yes.
Wait, what was the
I
other
hope you're going to
point
say
you made?
something more useful.
The other point you made was about culture, and I had an idea on that. Well, on politics, we can contribute politically in Spain and help move things along. I firmly believe that. In Pasta Costa Blanca, we got Brits on the council, or mayors even. And on my own part, I was a member of Ciudadanos last year, and I gave my little bit to help the Partido Popular out of office.
Right, the equivalent of the Tory party in Spain.
Well,
and many of their members are going to prison, or else they're being tried by judges. All this big throwback to Franco and all the stuff. It's got nothing to do with it, as an aside. But the amount of corruption, well, I mean, it's the same. Anyway, carry on, Peter. Yeah. Sorry.
Getting them out was the first thing.
There's a lot of it about.
Well, they're not quite out nationally, but in Valencia they're out. And nationally, they're hanging there. The only problem is the alternative is really horrendous. Pablo Iglesias. But anyway, that's going another way. But no, when you get into Spain, like I wouldn't say I'm a fluent Spanish speaker, but I can get by. And so I guess I'm more involved than you. But you must speak Spanish after all these years.
Sí, hablo español, un poquitín. No mucho, pero sí, hablo. Yeah, I can speak a bit of Spanish. I try to integrate, yeah. I admit my Spanish is pretty dreadful, but I can get by.
I'd say
especially
you're
in a bar.
more integrated than me because you've got a Spanish wife.
You see, but okay, I do actually though. But she was in the UK for a long time, and we speak in English a lot as well. And she, you know, that's the way it is. But I mean, I would say to you, one thing I think Spain should do, and personally I wish they would, is to have a compulsory exam of Spanish that you have to pass to stay in the country, or at least to, you know, that is, maybe it's not compulsory, but it's heavily, well, frankly, that it's compulsory. I mean, I think you should. I think that integration to that degree is important. What we're seeing in Britain a lot, for example, is a lot of Muslim women who don't speak any English because their husbands, their culture is suppressing their use of English.
Yeah.
That's also very bad. And so it would actually protect all sorts of different areas of society, and it surely would promote integration if we did have, you know, some sort of compulsory language tests. I mean, I'll be with you on that. We do see.
I must say, it's a very interesting idea. There is, to become a national, to become Spanish, there is a test. It's not that complicated. It's an A2. A2 is a level, A1, B1, but whatever. It's a second level. It doesn't involve subjunctives. It hardly uses the past tense. But it was quite an intense quite an intense exam. It went on a whole morning. I was exhausted by the end of it. And I don't know whether I passed. I should have done, but who knows? But that's to become a national. To actually get your residence, your ID card, your NIE.
Your NIE, yeah. You're basically equivalent of a national insurance number.
I must say, with you, there should be some sort of a thing whereby you can have your NIE, but you've only got it for a year or 2 years, and you've got to learn the language or learn enough to pass a basic test.
Certainly, if you want to claim any kind of benefits, definitely.
You never get benefits in Spain.
Well, people do in the UK, don't they? People do in the UK, and people do here, and people also use the health service, and so, you know, if you're going to be a guest in a foreign country as a resident, then I think there are certain things that, you should be expected to do and to comply with, and so on and so forth. I mean, do you feel, Peter, just tell me, head on heart, how do you feel personally about voting in a foreign land on things that I know you've got kids. It seems to me that your kids, they were born in Spain, that they should have more rights. But if you are yourself a migrant, then should you? Do you think that people should? I'm changing. I'm moving around, looking at this from different angles.
Well, no. If you become Spanish, you can vote. That's right. And if you've been in the country 10 years, you can become Spanish. If you're married,
but you can
Spanish,
vote anyway, can't
years.
you? You can vote without becoming Spanish.
You can only vote in your local elections, your local town. The Valencia, the community election, there you can't vote.
You can choose whether or not you have to, as I understand it, you have to rescind your UK voting rights, but that then you can vote also in Spanish national elections. Am I wrong there? I've never tried to do it for the reasons that I said before.
I believe you're wrong. You've got to be a Spaniard. You've got to be a national.
Okay.
Nia. Is that right? No, not Nia. NIF.
So it's, okay. So
ENI.
Okay. So that's just in the local elections that you can vote, and also for your MEP if you happen to know his or her name. Okay.
Good
All right.
point. MEP. Which MEP though? Your English MEP maybe, but the Spanish one, no.
Peter, I happen to know that you're a dad.
Yeah.
What are your hopes and fears for your kids? Because I guess really that is the bottom line, isn't it? We have to try and leave things on this earth a little bit better than we found it, it seems to me. But particularly if you're a parent, I would have thought that should be uppermost in your head. And I know you, and I know you're a good man, and I think you feel you're doing the best. But what are your concerns as to what really, how far does this go that you can see that is detrimental to their future, depending on which way we go? Tell me your concerns from the bottom of your heart, please.
Well, for us, it's quite easy because we're going to be Spanish, and so they will have all the European whatevers. They'll have the rights they've always had of free movement in Europe. For a Brit, though, obviously their children have much more limited possibilities, much fewer options. But as for mine, even with this free movement, it's still not easy. The uncertainties or whatever, and so they're just going to make the way. All you can do is give them an education and try and set them off, and then they have to decide. And just to get it right, they were actually spent the first years in England. They came when they were 7 and 10. So
they're migrants too, actually.
They're migrants, but now they've been here in Spain much longer than they were in England.
It has to say that they're fluent. They're fluent in both tongues, aren't they? They are very
so they
integrated people. That has to be said.
Spanish, well, my daughter particularly, because she's got a long-term Spanish boyfriend. My son is not quite found his way yet.
Peter, do you think? Can you see that despite our differences, we can bridge the gap of understanding, hopefully around that simple concept of democracy, so that whatever we think about Brexit, that we can get behind it and really, really try ultimately to make it work for everybody in Europe, not just within the EU?
When the 2 years have run out and our membership is over, I'm sure that even diehard Remainers will just sort of buckle down. But the fact is, we're not there yet. And what happened with the referendum, it was a snapshot in time. That was then. A year, and the time the SNP got tons of votes, and Scotland was virtually 100% SNP. A year later, election was called by mail, or was 18 months, and the Scots changed their mind, effectively. Also made us, well, doesn't matter. The results were quite different. Suddenly, instead of it's 100% SNP, it was back to 50 or 60%.
And actually, the Tories did better than the Labour Party in Scotland. It all pointed to me, the Scottish area of the last general election in the UK, all of it pointed to me that the Scots actually don't want to leave the UK, anything like as many as the SNP were claiming, and also that they're not so terribly keen on the EU as the likes of Nicola Sturgeon or Alex Salmond were having us believe. No?
Well,
did you read it that way? Or am I being unfair, do you think?
You could read it that way if you want. There are other ways to read it, but the point I'm making is that the vote 18 months later was dramatically different from where it was then, in the time of the referendum. And I put it to you that if we had a referendum tomorrow, Brexit would be just history. We're talking about democracy as a snapshot in time, which is an engineered vote, engineered by Boris and Farage and their cronies, and really, it's an aberration. It just doesn't make sense to the working man.
Okay, let me.
That's what I put it to you. So no way am I getting behind Brexit. And even when it happens, I'm afraid I'll be Spanish. It's just.
Yeah, but you'll still care. Come on, you can't tell me you won't still care about your family, your cousins, your culture. Of
course I'll care. I'll give them a welcome and I'm sorry, Ollie. I studied history at university. I have a long view of things, and it just 100 years ago, the Tommy stiff upper lip was going over the trenches, getting mown down the millions. It's that same attitude which here now. That's how it is. I've heard this from Brexit. That's how it is. We've got to do it. Well,
let me play
English
Peter.
Way,
Hold that thought.
Bulldog
Peter, hold that thought.
Years worth of, oh God.
Hold that thought. Hold that passion. I want to play something quickly. I want to play something to you quickly. Listen to this. This is Jon Snow, yeah. Now, Jon Snow, he was on something or other talking about, from Channel 4, the newsreader, who is completely Remain, or was, and all the media seems to be. No, not all of it, no. But a lot of it is. And Channel 4 has been, as has obviously the BBC's, the worst offender, really, in terms of, although they were relatively balanced during the actual referendum campaign, but since have shown their true colours, reverted to form. Now, Jon Snow was kind of in that camp. Now, this is what he says. I want you to listen to this, Peter, because I want to have your opinion.
Over this past year, we, me included, mostly London-based media, pundits, pollsters and so-called experts have got it wrong. The Brexit referendum, we got that wrong. Trump defying completely more so-called experts, pundits, journalists alike. Theresa May's strange general election, predicted to get a majority of 67, 70. We got that wrong too. She was forced to do a deal with the DUP in order to stay in power, while thousands of people at Glastonbury Festival chanted, "Oh, Jeremy Corbyn. Oh, Glastonbury." Like they say about the 60s, if you remember it, you just weren't there.
Okay, all right. Well, I mean, he has got a point, hasn't he? He has got a point that there hasn't been a total collapse. My question to you, Peter, could you be wrong?
Well, I don't think so, obviously, but no one has a monopoly of truth. Everyone has the truth, and whether I'm right or wrong, all I can do is use the historical perspective and look at the economic realities and make an informed judgment. And my judgment is that it's really not going to do the country any good. It's going to be very interesting. If it's, I'll tell you something, Ollie. I went on holiday this year, and we went with some older friends of mine, David Moses and wife Lynn. And David is more Brexit than you. He is totally Brexit, and so much so that
I don't think you can be more Brexit than me.
We banned the word. We just didn't mention the word. We couldn't talk Brexit. However.
You and I agree to disagree. People can. We do need to reach out to each other, whether we agree or not, ultimately. This is, okay, I want to ask you that question again. Come the enactment, come the fruition of Article 50 and the actual Brexit. Let's assume that it is Brexit, real, true Brexit. You will get behind it then, surely. There's no choice. We must come together then, surely.
Well, no. No, I'm sorry, it won't be like that. Scotland will vote, and they will have a narrow vote, but they'll go independent. Ireland will probably merge. Now, this is the point.
Or leave the EU.
No, they won't leave the EU. They will merge with Southern Ireland.
They might feel they have to.
Anyway,
in that case,
the point I was going to make, I had to it with David, and we were getting about over the things that could happen, and the fact is, well, isn't that a good thing? And the fact is, there could be enormous benefits. For example, Balmoral will be in a foreign country. The Queen won't have a favourite home. In fact, the monarchy may well go under. It may well be the end of the monarchy because, one, the country will be able to afford them. And two, we'll all see...
You're talking about the British monarchy.
Exactly.
Right.
If you see the Windsors, have you seen this programme? It's spoof with Harry Enfield.
No.
It's just so bloody funny. I'm going to have to record
I'll have to watch some of that. I like Harry Enfield.
Terrible.
Right.
Okay. But it's like spitting images. But it's really taking the piss out of the royal family. So the mood... is, the monarchy could go, the Lords could go, Scotland could bugger off, and the Irish and the Wales could even...
I don't see the correlation, Peter. I don't see the correlation. I mean, I know that we've got questions about the monarchy because the Queen's getting on, bless her, but I don't see that necessarily relates to Brexit.
The point is, Brexit could have enormous benefits if you happen to be a Republican. And if you happen to be a Scotsman, a real Scotsman, and frankly, if you happen to be a real Englishman... I'm a Republican.
I am a Republican personally. No disrespect to Her Majesty, and I know she's watching, but I am. But that's not to say I don't have some respect for this Queen, because I do. But the monarchy as a whole, I'm not so sure, to be honest with you. But I think it's just extremely inconvenient that we're having to ask ourselves potentially two such massive questions. One of them about the EU, and one of them about, maybe the succession. Should Camilla be Queen? All that kind of stuff would come up, wouldn't it? It's very inconvenient for us from a national point of view to have such two enormous questions pretty much at the same time, or almost conjoining. Can we not? Well, but I don't see the correlation apart from that. In terms of,
I'll just repeat the conversation we had. These are various things which could happen, which would be could be seen as benefits. So, frankly, if Brexit happens, you could have major changes. Being a sort of traditional sort of person, I find these changes a bit sort of, I find it hard to get behind them. At the same time,
so you
I'm
prefer the status quo
that,
because it's more of a comfort zone, maybe. I mean, that I understand that argument as well. That a lot of people would, I think, make it.
I did have that, but the fact is, I can't stand the monarchy. I can't stand all that flummery. And the Lords, well, I quite like a second chamber, but the fact that half of them are just getting paid for doing nothing, I think they could seriously overhaul the second chamber.
I agree with you about the Lords, absolutely.
So all these things could happen with Brexit.
It's hard to do anything in your own backyard, though, until you've sorted out the overriding issue. I mean, it's hard for us to reform the Lords until we tried for reform with the EU. That failed, so we're pulling out. And then
we could do all these things. It just happens the British government's so spineless. But what may well happen as we progress Brexit, that who knows? We could end up with Corbyn. We could end up with dramatic changes. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. So actually, I'm going to end this thing saying, yes, I'm a Brexiteer. Let's go for it. No, but the trouble is, for me, that's self-thing. I've got friends who support Brexit who've got an Irish passport now. I think that's just shocking. It's so hypocritical. All I know is there's going to be an awful lot of hardship as a result of Brexit. A lot of families falling apart, a lot of it's just going to be a mess. But there could be benefits. There could be benefits, and one of them could be end the monarchy, could be the Scotland doing their own thing, could be major changes to the status quo, and that is not a bad thing, because the status quo, frankly, is dreadful.
Peter Heskett, I agree with you about the status quo being dreadful. Hey, that's one thing we do agree on. Peter Heskett, you're a brave man for coming on this show, and I appreciate it. I applaud your bravery, sir. Because, my God, I'll tell you, you're deluded too, mate. But I love you. He's a good player.
You know what? I'm with you all the way. Brexit, man, do it. Let's see what happens. God help us all.
Spoken like a true Brexiteer. Peter Heskett, thank you very, very much. We've had some great comments that I haven't introduced. Brian Mahendranathan, be positive, think positive, act positive. Everything will go good. Don't worry, be happy. Royal will take care of every one of us because all Europe is still kingdom, sovereign. Hey, here's to us and bugger plutocracy. This has been the Daily Brexit. I'm Olly Connelly. Thanks for watching. Like this, share it, God knows what. God bless you. Thanks, Peter. God bless you, mate.
Thank you. Night.
Ramonas, eh? Yeah, back on Tuesday. I wasn't here last Tuesday. Went to see my mother in the UK. Came back with some sausages. Very good.